Must step by step tell it, okay, this is the filter, look at this, creates this, send this out. Once this is out, you don't expect it to stop sending, You must add another filter behind to say, evaluate that this is out, no longer send the prompt again. Right?
Really no common sense.
Yeah, no common sense.
No common sense.
No common sense. A very dumb one, this thing, right?
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wise and Shine. I'm your host Dawn, SG Budget Babe, and I have with me Alex.
I'm Alex. I am Reggie's replacement. Actually, I'm not his replacement. He's just seated opposite me. You can find me on Alex_Growth Mindset Coach.
Not good enough, that's why I relegated to the other seat. Alright, so jokes aside, today's episode is a really important one, especially in light of how we're seeing everywhere on the news. Companies are unfortunately laying off employees, retrenching staff, but yet still spending lots of big money on AI and automation. So one of the key skills, as most of us know by now, is that in order to make sure we don't get displaced, we gotta learn AI, right? We gotta learn how to automate.
I got displaced already. I'm sitting here.
Lucky I run my own thing, so don't get displaced. Only I displace myself.
And you are already starting to learn automation. Yeah, but not everyone has the time or bandwidth or the luxury to learn and practice. So that's why we have an expert with us today, Anya.
Hello.
Anya, can you introduce yourself to our audience? Let them know what you do.
Hi everybody. My name is Anya. I'm from Hatch MediaHouse. I'm the head, and that basically means we help organizations of all sizes, whether you're a startup, whether you're a large organization and you have new automation goals, but also maybe design and marketing. But these days, everything has automation. Nothing has been spared, right?
When you said I'm the head, and that basically means I do everything. That was the next line I was expecting, but yes.
I try not to say that.
Yeah.
In theory, we have people.
Or is it all automated?
Are you sure they're not AI people?
I would say at this point, I do have AI as a team member.
Oh, what's her name? Sophia, Siri, Gemini.
I haven't gotten as far as calling it a name. I think I'm not sure if my team is ready for that yet. It will start to feel competitive.
I can imagine. Maybe just a quick show of hand. We have 4 people right now. Who has used an automation in the last 1 week?
Me.
I haven't, so I'm left behind.
Oh,
my.
Okay,
Still
bye.
on paternity leave.
Oh, yeah.
Give yourself paternity
Very important. Government say
Extended paternity leave.
Government say must take paternity leave. Okay, so your excuse. Okay, and then so the 3 of us, how many have built an automation?
What do you mean by build automation?
So it's not someone built then you use, or you're taught to use, someone set it up. You had to set up and design and create it.
Okay. I am building the automation. That's why
You're building?
Yeah. That's why our slide is all over the place. There's
Okay.
a lot of spam.
So we have the lines divided here. Over there, that's you guys who have built and created your automation, and we are like the got used, never used, don't really know, and we're gonna represent the viewer and listener on learning how. Maybe Alex, you can start. Like you say, you're building, but you've not yet used. What normally do you look out for when you're trying to automate?
I think that when it comes to automation, we're always thinking, okay, if we automate, that means we're saving time, right? But how much of that time of saving is actually worth automating something? If I have to spend a week automating something, or maybe a month automating something, and what is the opportunity cost of that month and what are the returns? Is there some statistic or some value that you have, a formula that you have? Okay, if I put in X amount of time, it's going to save you X amount of time or X amount of dollars. Maybe there is something that you have that you can share with the viewers.
I have 2 very different perspectives on that. One from being a team lead and knowing how much time I've saved and how much faster I'm able to do things. But also from the perspective of maybe, being an employee, knowing that if I do this faster, am I going to get empty space of time? Or is it just going to add more tasks on my plate because I'm still on the clock?
No empty space of time so you can have longer lunch break, go to the gym, do more mindfulness activities.
To sort of start off, I honestly do think there are time savings to be had. But, like Reggie was saying earlier, your Slack is all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
When you start an automation, it is a slow step-by-step process when you're trying to figure it out. So you might actually start feeling like, this isn't worth my time. This is totally chaotic. Everything is like guiding a baby and it needs so much patience and nurture. What am I wasting my time for? Like, that's the initial feeling when we start doing it, start jumping into it. To be honest, it's kind of like learning a new skill, right? We do need to learn it very intentionally. There's a lot of like new neural pathways we're building, new learnings that we're making in our brains by incorporating things we already know really well about our work, ourselves, our time, our organizations. And then, there's a little bit of, okay, here's this new thing. How do I navigate this? So until that becomes like a known sort of learning and that we can repeat unconsciously, it's going to feel like it is a waste of my time.
It's true.
And that's very true.
It's true.
Unless you have like an expert to come in and set it up for you and go, here.
Exactly. But I think for most companies or most individual solopreneurs, they don't have that. So how do you try and quantify or identify what is worth automating? Because as you shared, the initial setup phase is very time consuming. Teaching, crafting, actually learning how to even set up is a problem. And then you have to teach it, you have to feed it the data to learn. And then you have to test it, reiterate, and keep tweaking, right? That takes an awfully lot of time. And we all get that the cost and time savings come after. But at this identifying and building phase, how do you even know what to automate and what's worth automating?
What she's saying is, she's telling her boss, you need to give me time to do this. You don't ask me to do BAU and then still do the automation and do this AI thing. I heard at the networking event, someone told me this was good, right? All right, but actually, I think a lot of bosses do need to realize it does take a lot of time, right?
It's true,
to get into that. So
And I
yeah.
think not just for bosses, right? Even for people who are solopreneurs, content creators, or own bosses, you still need to run your business as usual while still learning this. So it's always hard to carve out time. So if you have any framework or any advice that you can share with us and the viewers, how can you identify what's worth automating?
One thing is identifying things that you're doing on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that keeps repeating. It's worth thinking about it because how many hours am I actually putting into creating that end of month report? I'm pulling all of the information from different places. It's the same task. I'm not actually using my brain after a while. I'm just going on autopilot. I might as well get like an AI or some form of automation to pull it together for me so that I can spend the real time looking at the finished report and then going, how will this help me apply it to my business? Like, I want to spend the time on the meaty, juicy, creative, brain-flowing things rather than some of the more task-related things. But I will say for people who enjoy more of the routine work, I think it's okay. It's a personal preference at the end of the day. But if we have a large team or a larger organization to manage beyond that oneself as a solo entrepreneur, maybe, I think it's worth automating these because, like, for example, sales reports need to come from the sales team. The marketing reports needs to come from the marketing team. And then you need to have a meeting to figure out how does this tally with this other thing. And then you go, wait, that does not tally. But then can you walk me through this thing? And then give me the context. So much time goes into meetings and emails just to figure it out. Like, trying to fit the jigsaw piece, but it's not fitting. So I think if I actually pause to, count how much time, it may be anywhere from 2 hours to 10 hours. Include, like, if there are 10 people, you multiply that by 10 people. That's how much time I'm wasting on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis.
So let's say I'm convinced I should automate. I must
so
automate.
fast.
Are you convinced? So fast.
Let's say
Back from paternity leave immediately.
The brain working, kicking into second gear already,
very
right?
good. Yeah.
So let's say this is something I want to do. What are the main challenges based on clients and customers that you have met and served for us to be looking out for, right? So I'm a Gen X. Is it a generational, I'm not so tech savvy kind of challenge, or is it just a mindset thing? If it's something new, I need to learn and grow out of, if you can share, that would be great.
Why must play Gen X here now?
It's definitely
Wow.
not a generation thing.
Yes, it's not. I'm not Gen X, but I struggle with it too.
So Gen Y also, you see?
I'm millennial. Actually, I don't know. Am I Gen Y or
millennial.
millennial?
So I think it's more of like, some people are very divergent thinkers. They have lots of ideas. And then some people are convergent thinkers. And then there are some people who are systemic thinkers. So you need to think from a systems point of view for this. And really you want to map out like, how does this thing connect to this thing, lead to this outcome? How are they going to talk to each other? How do I need to prepare my data set? What tools am I already using within my organization? How will they even connect with each other and talk to each other when I'm not there to make it happen?
You gave an example earlier on, which I thought was quite obvious, data reports. But if you have to run reports on a regular basis, provided the data sources are always from the same source, I can imagine that would be an easy one to automate, right? But what if the data is not always going to be from the same source? You may need to go to other places to double check. There may be mistakes, or it's more of like partly research report as well, where you actually have to search and find the answer. How would you automate that?
That's great. I think research reports take a slightly different approach because we don't know the end outcome or the output. For the recurring reports, we do.
Yeah.
So then I think the approach would be slightly different. Maybe we take it more as an emergent process. So maybe we train the AI or the automation workflows to think about, what is our unique company process, or what is my unique thought process in doing this research report? What are the questions that I'm always asking? What are my curiosities? And how can I sort of codify that to slightly more generic, where it's sort of like, like the skin over the muscle and the bones?
Okay, I'm going to give you an example. I think this would run across all industries. Pretty much every company or every industry would at some point do a market or competitors report, usually thrown to the interns. Here, go and find out, research, or if there are no interns, then it would be the sales or one of the people in the team would have to do it. Can something like that, the competitive landscape report, can that be automated, and how?
I want to add a little bit on that, right? Actually, I think it's very different process. I mean, because I'm a newbie, but I get a decent sense of how this thing works. What you're seeking requires plowing data from outside. This is actually like tier 5 or something. It's quite cheap.
But there are GPTs now that can do research.
But the baseline is your database first, right? You must clean up your database in a sense that you must know what you actually want to track. Then you build a place, I think nobody use Excel these days, right? Maybe you use... Okay. Sorry.
I'm still using Excel, brother.
I don't mean, okay, yeah, but
that's why he's being replaced already.
Yeah. I don't mean Excel is not good, but like I use Notion, right? So I think the first level is really just cleaning up the database, right? In the sense of, let me give you some context, because databases is pretty much similar to an Excel sheet, tend to be a bit complicated to integrate everyone into. So there is a very good chance in the process of growing your company, if you adopt, let's say, Notion as a platform, there's a very good chance there'll be 101 dashboard that just constantly get created all over the place. And because team A wants to do it in their own way, team B wants to do it in their own way, that whole shenanigan, right? So that is so common, but that is the number one point of failure. If you want to consolidate the company into a certain level, everything needs to come into one dashboard, right? Only when that database comes in together, then all your data collection, give it some prompts to generate the data, or even your weekly report, right? You don't even need to care so much about it. You just create a template and then it will all draw information from this one dashboard, right? Then tada, every week settle, recreate.
Which is why when the source of truth is always the same, it's easier to build that automation, right? But herein lies the example of if the source of truth is not always the same. If you use like market research competitive reports, your source of truth could come from magazines, from news, from blogs, from forums. Is it even possible to automate that kind of report then?
100%. I have a couple of I want to share like the low level version of what an entry point to beginning to automate this, and then a slightly more sophisticated version. So I think in the first part, you can use any AI tool like ChatGPT. You can create a custom GPT with your own steps and frameworks to follow. The thing about a custom GPT is it's really good at doing one thing really well. So maybe I will set up a couple of different custom GPTs. So the first one is I will ask it to only browse the internet and point to my favorite sources for doing research and prompts and pull in all of this and compile it. Next, I'm going to do a second type of thing, which is, hey, can you take all of this data and do data analysis? So that's going to be my next step for the custom GPT, which is going to be a totally different custom GPT, because if you think about it, if there were two people in the room, they may have two different skill sets. It's kind of like trying to get one thing to do one thing really well, and then you let it go into the next GPT.
Right, I love it. So the custom GPTs, think of them as specialists and
Yes.
not
Yes.
generalists.
As I play around with these automation tools, right, then I start to realize humans are very smart, right? Because you gotta treat the computer like stupid.
Yes.
It's really stupid one, right? You must step by step tell it, okay, this is the filter, look at this, creates this, send this out. Once this is out, you don't expect it to stop sending, You must add another filter behind to say, evaluate that this is out. No longer send the prompt again, right?
Really no common sense.
Yeah, no common
And
sense.
no common sense.
No common
Yeah.
sense. A very dumb one, this thing, right? So you must build really very stupid one.
And that's where also, like, we always have that saying, common sense is not common.
Yeah.
What about the project manager? Do you also need to create a project manager GPT, or does that have to be a person?
Depending on what platform you're on, these days, most project management softwares have an AI assistant for that. If you have a set fixed workflow for your project and you already know this is going to take X months or X days, this is the next step in the process, you can get it to do it for you and automate it and then be like, hey, this is coming. You should be wrapping it up now. Oh, this is the next person in line. It should be going to them. All those automations, you can set it up in your project management software.
Very power one.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So there are two types of automation tools or software services right now in the market. One would be the actual, like just Gemini, ChatGPT, or maybe just noobs like me call the primary ones. Okay, and then we have the secondary ones. We kind of rely on these and they build their AI functions into the whole platform of software, such as Notion or Canva or all these other tools that are integrated. How do you identify when do you use each?
I think one thing to think about is if you're working with ChatGPT or maybe like Claude by Anthropic, if you've heard of it, they are still like a front-end user face. We are still not accessing the actual LLM behind it. Only like software engineers and developers use it, which is what we call as, using like those fancy terms, APIs, webhooks, and calling it. So it needs to be done in more of like a developer environment. But what I would say is often tools like Notion, Canva is where the actual work happens.
Yes.
So you want to be using it during the time when it's easy for you to just make that quick change. Oh, I'm putting together this pitch deck. I have thoughts. I'm going to write bullet points and let the AI clean it up so it looks nice on the pitch deck for me. For example, that's really quick. I don't want to open ChatGPT and be like, hey, I'm writing a pitch deck. Hey, can you write this? This is what I want the people to know. It's really smart and intelligent because based on the context of, oh, this is the headline I've put into this deck. This is probably what it needs right now.
So using the second group would already have the work use case embedded, which then makes that whole process shorter. But if they are using tools like Gemini and ChatGPT, it's more raw and you have to take that and still convert it later on.
I would say if you're using Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, think of it as, like you take a lump of clay, it's nothing in the beginning, and then you're slowly shaping it over a period of time. So each conversation thread you have is shaping the final output that you want so you can take it to wherever you want to use it.
Right. So if that's a lump of clay that you're shaping, then what is the similar analogy for tools like Notion and Canva?
You already know that, like maybe somebody gave you a base that looks like a vase. Maybe somebody gave you a base that looks like a mug and they're saying...
That's an excellent analogy.
Yeah,
right?
I
Easy
love
to
it.
understand.
This really
I
helps
love how you're
listeners.
explaining to the lay.
Have you done clay modeling? I don't even know.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm, but even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below, let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
put context. I'm not really building it. At work, someone builds it. I just have to learn how to use it, and that's painful enough. But as a solopreneur and a content creation, I'm also trying to build, and I have on ChatGPT budget bait writer, budget bait video producer, and I've been trying to train it, but
Not spending enough time with the fella lah.
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe it's just knowing what type of format you need for the content to train it.
Okay, that's a new thing, right? Format. So can you explain a little bit more about this format? What do you mean when you say format that the AI needs to be trained in?
Yeah, so we are so versatile. We just take a Word document, we take an Excel sheet, we just type in whatever we want, and then it magically works for us. But when we're talking with an AI, again, we're thinking about it as has no common sense. We need to define everything.
Very stupid. Everything also need to define. Very dumb one.
So it needs to know what's a number, what's a word,
Oh, it needs to know what's a number and what's an alphabet.
what's a headline, what's a paragraph.
Wait, you have to teach it what is the number?
Yeah, so not so common, the common sense.
You gotta teach it what's a color, okay?
I'm too dumb.
You have to define, every specific detail and thing. Our human brain is so sophisticated that we understand the context, the format, and everything, and just magically, boom, we're done.
And if you don't need to define, that means someone else has defined for you. So if you think as like colors, right? Every color has a code, right? A, B, F, 1, 2, something like that, right? Hashtag, right? So somebody, I don't know who, has already managed this database. They already code every single color so that when you go on there using your computer, you can just pull out. So that particular color has an ID.
Right. You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing that one, we have to treat the AI like a dumb, clueless intern.
No, it's worse than your intern. Intern is
Interns are
horrible,
very
but this is worse than your
smart,
intern. Yeah.
No, that's why I say a dumb and clueless intern, which don't really exist. Because like it reminds me of when, for instance, when I went for my first internship at a PR firm, I knew how to write, but I didn't know how to write PR. And my boss had to teach and contextualize all these things for me. So I had to switch the way I wrote, stuff like that. Would that be the accurate way to say that? Because that's what I'm hearing from you guys describing the AI.
Very true. I've heard people who try ChatGPT and be like, oh my God, why does it sound so bad? How come it's not giving me the output that I want?
Yes. Oh my God, that's me.
100% of the time, right? When you first start, you want something in your brain, you already know what it should look like. You just haven't done the work of putting it out. And then you're like, maybe it's going to be faster if I use this ChatGPT. And then turns out it's so bad. Even after you try a few times, it's so bad, you get frustrated and then you're like, this is not for me.
That's exactly my experience. I went to try and build a custom GPT for budget-based video to try and come up with video scripts. And then every single time I tried to key in the inputs, right, and I kept tweaking the prompt, the end result was always so bad. But after a while, I was like, actually, if I just did it myself, it would have been a lot faster and I'll have a better script. But if we keep doing that, then we're not leveraging the advantages of automation, right? Because as you say, we have to shape it, then we get to the output. But now I'm frustrated because I'm spending so much time shaping it and it still doesn't look like a freaking vase. It looks like a cup instead.
It looks like a cup.
Yeah.
It's like, where is the bus? Where is the bus?
Yeah, exactly, right? So how can people who are new, who are not receiving training and are self-directed learners, how can we get past this phase?
I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there is multiple tiers to these things, right? So if you are working with anything that's internal, right, that means it's your own data set. Like for us at TFC, right, after we record all these things, we will plow it through the script. And it becomes a transcript, right? And we get the AI to do something with this transcript. This is a closed data set, right? So with this closed data set, actually the accuracy is quite high.
Did you feed it your scripts, your previous video scripts?
No, because my YouTube channel is still new. But so what can someone who's trying to use it for something like that do then if you don't have the previous data set? Can you feed it other people?
You must build the data set.
Building the data set meaning to teach the AI to pull from the right sources, right?
So like maybe I say TFC YouTube. That's like part of my initial data set and like a few other channels that I like. And then I feed that to the AI.
Yeah. So you would like go and make a script, preferably in a PDF format or maybe like a Excel sheet, but you download as .csv, just like a data format for the AI to see. And you can hold large amounts of data without it being a big file. So you will just pull all the references. So let's say if you're someone new and you're like, I really want to build something new for myself, but I'm not sure yet. I think first thing is before you build a custom GPT, you need to be able to like create a thread so you can have a format and an example output first. So you can only build a custom GPT for things that feel repeatable or that things that you can leverage an existing process or a data set or a point of view or a philosophy on something.
Because that's when you encounters or it meets new data that's different from that, then it adds on from there, right?
So it's generative, meaning what that is essentially doing is it's going to look at everything that you've given it and create new instances in new contexts that, you know, like it's cross-applying.
Right.
But I feel like this generative thing, right? I get it, right? Everybody wants to get that whole like, you know, woo, like exciting, right? This thing. Objectively, I feel like it is not to the level that I want it yet. Okay, so there's all sorts of reasons. It could be because the data sets are not clean, because you don't get to see everything. You don't know how is this thing getting the data from the World Wide Web, right? Like where is it getting from? So this thing is a little bit of like too far flung. I feel like for most people that are running a small team, you know, or in the office space, you know, a lot of these things are too far flung. I think, right, we start with the very simple, very repetitive type of things at the level where like once my team gets clarity, okay, this, so we just use CSA as an example, okay? Once we have decided this is the angle that we're going for, this is the guest lineup that we are looking at, because we have all the guest information on the database, right? Their LinkedIn, their email, their contact number, you know, don't have father, mother, but most of the things that we need from a professional standpoint, we have the information. So I can actually run an automation that allows Google to create a calendar and immediately invite them, right? So I don't need to go and like, let me create another thing.
And you probably can also create an entire database of potential guests that you want to invite, right? Similar to the data set as those that have been. So
that one requires some sort of a plowing. That's when the webhooks come in, right? You must plow the internet for a set of data. And then you start to see how this works. Right. So there's an internal data set that you set up and all the automation is built within this internal data set. What a lot of people are thinking these days, not saying y'all, but what a lot of people are thinking these days is they want to get the internet to give them something. Even collecting the information in itself is a process. How do you go about collecting accurate information into the data set that you want to then generate? So it's a few layers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
Am
also,
I making sense? Is it correct?
Yeah. And I also think of it as there's some section where it's research. There's some section where you're thinking and planning, what we call as strategy to execute. Then you go into the operational parts of the execution. So the automations will look very different for each part of the process. So let's say for TFC, once you know you have your angle, you have your brief and everything, the operational parts I'm going to assume is creating a PDF with all of the notes and sending an email out. That can be automated. You know, maybe sending a calendar invite with the location. That can be automated. Maybe sending a reminder, hey, you know, it's coming. Come to, these are what things you need to remember. That can be automated. You can send a thank you email after people come. And then once the episode is live, you can send them a link using automations so that, you know, like the manual process of I'm going to go here, copy this, add this link. Yeah. You know, when you're running a slightly more fast-paced, robust sort of operation, it really takes up your energy, but not in the right ways.
I actually know and can visualize in my head what you were just describing, but I have to say and caveat that this is because in my company, we have a data person who's actually building that automation, and then the rest of us just need to go in and execute. And I also have another colleague where we would be like the event example, right? So she would pull the list, set up that automated email sequences, and then she'll just, after the event, like these are the attendees, these are the non-attendees, here's the email sequence that's going out. And if the person replies, it doesn't send like the follow-up. You did not reply, didn't hear from you. It's all automated. So the luxury is that they do it, I don't. But I guess like, you know, if we want to talk about how listeners and viewers from today's episode can walk away with some actionable outcomes.
I think this is a great personal pain points, right? And earlier you talked about calendar, sending a thank you email. What about for yourself? What do you use to automate your own life? Don't talk about work lah. For your own personal life, it could be, I don't know, your mindfulness activities.
Also want to automate lah.
Why not?
Of course.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about here, right?
I automate work so that I can spend more time with life.
Work is life, life is work.
Okay.
Same,
Work-life harmony.
Repeatable,
processes in your life that can be automated?
One of the things is I automate, like I'm a very visual person. So the concept of something is repeating in my life doesn't register unless I see it on my calendar, like a time block. So everything needs to be on my calendar as a time block. And then it needs to also wrestle with the logic of if I have work or if I have some other meeting, should it be in that time block or should it move? So I use AI and automations to do that for my life, for chores, for meeting people, following up with people, putting my tasks as a team lead in, and then, doing my one-on-ones, and also even things like my therapy sessions, my journaling prompts, like time for decompression in between things. Everything's on my calendar and it will automatically move according to the priorities that I set.
Could you elaborate and teach us how? So I give an example. You said like time blocking, and I think automating calendar setups would save a lot of people a lot of time, especially for us, right? You have a newborn, I have so many things on my plate. If we can actually get even the time blocking done, the planning, I think that saves a lot of time already. But how do you teach it that logic? So example, if I have like a gap in between my different tasks that's already on the calendar, I want to time block out something for exercise. But after I exercise, I get all sweaty. I have to go and refresh my makeup. So it needs to be smart enough to either not put it in between meetings or have enough gap to account for that. Can you actually automate that?
So I use this tool called reclaim.ai.
Reclaim.
Yeah, so I actually use it in combination with two other things. One is I sync up all my calendars to it, and I also sync up Todoist, which is a task manager, to reclaim.ai. So if I have any tasks that come up, I just need to pop it into Todoist, into the right category, and then it will find a calendar block with the right calendar. Meaning like maybe I might have one for work, one for personal life. So we'll put it into the right calendar on Reclaim. And they're all connected to my Google Calendar. So, the three of them are talking to each other. And so what I'll do is, when I did the setup, I decided every month I must do a KPI session that is 4 hours long. You must find a time in the first week of every month. So it will put it on my calendar. Let's say you're a team and other people are looking at your calendar. One is it's signposting to other people that you have something there. The thing that I've learned in this process is people don't really respect your time until they know you have something going on.
So sad. That's a consensus on that. Yeah, if you never see my calendar block, you just anyhow put, right? Yeah.
Right. If it's an empty slot, people will claim it. So what it will do is you can set up like saying this is high priority, lock it if I don't move it so nobody else can book that time. No other task can replace it. You can also say how frequently you want it. You can also decide what has more priority than that.
So you're using Todoist, which is your task manager, right? Your own task manager. And then you connect with the other systems to then adjust your calendar, right? So can I then use Notion to connect to Todoist such that when my team allocates a task to me, Todoist will pick up. It will talk to Notion to say that, hey, there's a task allocated to you in this category, and then it goes through into all my calendars. Is that kind of how it works?
It can, yeah. So you can actually, like if you have like, let's say your team is on Notion, but then somebody else is on Todoist, or maybe it's coming in through email or HubSpot, you can connect it all to flow into one that will then pass it on to the calendar.
So you could connect your email, you could connect your multiple calendars, you could connect your to-do list, and you could connect whatever systems like Notion or HubSpot or Monday.com all into Reclaim. And they will do that scheduling.
How does it deconflict then if there's conflict? Because of course that also means that you would have set those priorities, but is it smart enough to learn whatever deconflicting that needs deconflicting, or is just red alert, bang, bang, bang. Then you need to come in.
But in the first month, I did have to tell my team, hey, I'm trying something new. Bear with me. If something gets rejected, it's not that I hate you. But, it did learn from me. Like if I keep skipping something, like there are shortcuts. So even if a task comes up and I choose not to do it, I can just skip it. And then you will learn after a while that this is not high priority. But let's say that, I can set optimal times for certain things. So let's say I'm really like a evening worker. So in the morning, I prefer to chit chat. So I'll try to schedule all my one-on-ones in the mornings. So it will try to schedule all my talking things in the morning. And then I can even block out like focus work. So it will just say, do not disturb.
So this sounds like this magical tool. We gotta go and figure out how to do
eyes
it.
like, what?
Yeah, I'm wow, I need to figure this out. But I then have another question in terms of privacy and security. First is if I were to connect my company's tools, right? Let's say if someone is using Monday or HubSpot or Salesforce or whatever CRM systems that they have to use in the company to manage their workflows, and they connect it to Reclaim AI like this.
I think you need to get your company's permission first. Before you go on to any tool, ask company's permission, especially if your company has an enterprise plan. They may have policies against how AI is used.
So if they don't allow it, then I still have to do it.
I think about it this way, just on a personal level, every day I like to set myself up by creating a small, here's what's on my plate today. So I would like to maybe think of that as the motion that will put things on the calendar. Or use it as a brain dump for everything that's, I feel like is on my mind, so I can just let it go.
I can already imagine some organizations may not allow that connection. Then this magical tool wouldn't be able to work for the person, right?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of workarounds. Sometimes may not be possible. Some things I can
That's not a house view, huh? Cannot just work around your company's system.
Don't try it.
I picked it up from here.
But I'll tell you anyway.
Jailbreak.
It's maybe you can set up email notifications every time there's a task assigned from one of the project softwares that you have, and then you can forward that to a personal email, and then you can get it to read and put it.
I get it.
Yeah.
So there's 2 extra steps just to make it happen.
So you automate the sending to another calendar that you have control, and then it talks to that calendar. And then after that, the company IT will ask, why are you sending so many personal emails to yourself?
Yeah, so if you cannot connect to the company ecosystem, I think it's okay. But you can take your own, how do you manage your week, your month, and your upcoming things. Maybe you're doing it in a notebook.
I like how you offered a workaround. So I can also think of another potential workaround. I know, right? I mean, isn't that what people listen to us for also? So I can imagine maybe then for those who are working in companies where they don't allow such connection, maybe then the official work hours, 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, that just cannot get reclaimed on Reclaim AI. But 6 p.m. to 9 a.m., you can at least automate that part.
You can. I also think that
You can only reclaim after work.
after work.
but even during work, maybe there are certain things that you want to block out, right? Just in terms of, hey, I really want to close this off. So maybe Reclaim can put it for you and you just see it on your calendar and then go, I'm going to copy it here. So you don't have to do the thinking, wrestling work of how am I going to fit all of this on my calendar?
Is Reclaim smart enough to then also say that?
I feel like this is a sponsored episode.
We move on to the next one soon already,
Let's
right?
reach out to them after that. Would you like to sponsor?
Yeah, get them to give you a promo code.
Affiliate fee.
But is it even smart enough to prompt to say that, oh, you've rejected this meeting many, many times, right? Do you want to strike it off, or
Do you hate this person?
give you an alternative as opposed to the solution?
I actually don't know if it will flag out notifications because I don't enable notifications. But what I have noticed in my life is that, when I keep skipping it and then you see that one task that says it's been there for 100 days. That's a clue.
Procrastinating.
100 days I haven't done it. That means I'm never going to do it.
Right. Wow, this is very interesting and also enlightening. I want to then push on another question to follow up with that. There are lots of all these AI tools out there, and a lot of them have pricing plans. I can imagine someone can very easily go into a few $100s or thousands of dollars every month just paying for all these automation software. Then we haven't even talked about the Netflix, Spotify, and whatever other subscriptions they're on. How can someone manage the budget? Sorry, budget-based had to speak up.
It's a super important question because, I like to look at my subscriptions and I pay for a lot of these tools. So
I can tell.
I'm definitely in the few hundreds range, but I...
Only because the company can pay some of that. That's why if it's not company expense, would it be in the 1,000 range?
I know. My tech stack is very expensive these days. So I was like, wow, every month I'm paying so much for tech.
So for solopreneurs, content creators, self-employed folks, how can they manage this budget?
Which is why one of the questions I asked just now is which is the free, the free software, basic free.
Free one that is good enough to start, right?
I would definitely recommend start with your general purpose, AI that can do a lot of things that will work out for you in different use cases. That is the single most useful thing. Like it's a heavy worker, and depending on, if you want like more data analysis, you can go for, maybe like ChatGPT with custom GPTs and things. But then if you want more writing and scripting, I would recommend Claude by Anthropic. If you want more research, I would recommend Perplexity. And then you can decide, oh, do I want images? Do I want something like Midjourney or Luma for videos? So depending on your use case, you can figure out the other AIs. And then I would also say give yourself, apart from the one general AI, give yourself like a little bit of like in the beginning, a monthly budget. Don't go beyond that. But that budget should be enough for you to try out one new AI every month. So think of it as an exploratory phase. You're just going to sign up for 1 month, try it out and see how it fits into your life. If it doesn't work out, you're not going to continue. And that's okay, because these days there's so many out there. It's really hard to find the right fit. So then I think in terms of automation, if you really want to make all of these connections happen, I would recommend one, either Zapier, or two, which is make.com. They are basically low code, no code tools, meaning I don't need to know how to code. I can just look at it and say, oh, if this happens, then do this from this app or software.
I use Zapier.
Yeah. So just choose one of them that feels right and then have a plan for it. But if you feel like, I feel like for TFC, your use case is going to become more complex, I don't know if Zapier pricing will scale up well.
Yeah. That's what I've been looking at.
I like that. So what you're basically describing is for us to start thinking about who is worth AI.
Yeah, actually, I really like the who thing.
Right? Yeah. Because she described it so eloquently.
Exactly. It's like, this is a very hard worker.
Yeah. like,
We want the hardest worker.
Yeah, this is a very
hardest
hard
and smartest worker.
Then this one is a very smart worker, right?
Exactly.
Not very hard, but very smart, right? So
do I want to
like
pay
that.
for a low-paid intern who doesn't know a lot of things that I need to teach? Or I want to pay for an expert who can just come in and get the job done. So thinking from that framework will then help someone to manage the budget. Because I think now people are just thinking, let's just try, let's just do everything. Oh, my friend said this is good, I should do. And then it's very hard to figure out how to allocate that budget. But when you describe it that way, mind blown.
It's so much easier to understand.
Yeah, I think it's also quite fun because then you can create sort of like, I tried this month. This worked for me. This doesn't work for me. And then if you're a content creator, that review and recommendation that you're going to build over a period of time will work not just for yourself, but also your audience who may connect with you in that niche.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I
think
I
this
didn't
whole-
realize AI can do so many things.
Exactly. I think this whole episode has been very enlightening, not just from me and Alex as hosts, but also for our viewers and listeners. I hope you guys have found this useful. This is only the beginning of what AI can do, and obviously, as Anya has very helpfully shared, there's so much more and a lot of possibilities. It's just out there for us to try, build, spend time building, spend some money testing out, cancelling those that doesn't work so we don't overshoot our budgets. And if you want to learn more about all of these tools, Anya, earlier on, you were mentioning that you're running a few workshops.
Yeah. So at Hatch MediaHouse, partnered with Google Foundation and the Asia Foundation, and we're building a lot of resources where you can come online. It's a Zoom workshop, some of them physical workshops, all fully free, so you can learn and have entry points into what does it mean for me to how do I build a custom GPT, or how do I use AI to write, or how do I use AI to build these workflows, just to begin exploring and seeding ideas. And we also have resources for you to come in and learn at your own pace, lots of recordings if you want to learn, and I will share all of that information.
And we will put it in the links below as well. Sign me up. Sign us up.
First 3 on your wait list.
Yeah, exactly.
I am afraid it's a bit too late to be the first 3.
And that's how in-demand AI is. Thank you so much, Anya, for joining us
Thank you,
today.
Anya. Thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next episode of Wise and Shine, so stay tuned. That's us signing off, Dawn, Alex, Anya, and Reggie, and we'll see you guys again next time. Bye!